Hidden in the depths of the mind is a secret tomb where knowledge, fear, mystery, and a macabre sense of enjoyment is held. Each corner is resplendent with its own curiosities, and each curiosity appeals to a different soul. You're listening to The Crypt of the Unknown, a podcast that discusses the realms of the horrific and the fantastic in print, games, or on the screen. And now, introducing you to the Guardians of the Crypt, your tour guides. Here are Webb and Stefan J.D. Greetings, weary travelers, to the Crypt of the Unknown, a podcast where we discuss the fantastical and horrific. I am the Critical Android, and joining me for this episode, my friend, my colleague, my co-host, Stefan J.D.
Hello. I don't know.
That almost sounded like you were a phone sex operator for a second.
Hi, this is Sydney. I'm here to talk to you, baby.
I don't know whether I'd be horrified or turned on if it was that circumstance. Oh, dear. There's the way to start off the podcast.
Yeah. Would it help if Sydney played word-based board games?
I still remember that.
Old joke.
Old joke, but still a great one. So, do you like word-based board games? Wasn't that was Hanson, wasn't it?
Hanson.
Yeah, it was Hanson. For those of you who don't know, we're still not going to tell you. So you're going to wonder about that for years now. What were they talking about? Was it the band Hanson?
Those kids? Those blonde backwoods kids?
What did they have to do with word-based board games? The world may never know.
It will never know.
But anyway, we have a special episode here of the Crypt of the Unknown that I've basically called One Man's Crypt is Another Man's Treasure, where Steph and I are going to be talking about things that we enjoy that other people don't seem to enjoy. Like, we seem to be kind of alone, or at least in a minority, a vocal minority, on these topics that we're going to discuss. They can be esoteric in nature, they can be tangible, but we thought it was a good way to reveal some of our personality to you all, while also bringing up things that could be a good source of discussion.
Yeah, the thing about this, too, is that, people are into these things. We're not saying nobody's not into these things or don't like them. It's just that we don't know people who appreciate these things as much as we do. And in an offhand way...
There's another reference nobody's going to get. Well, I mean, they'll get it, but they won't understand why you brought it up.
In an offhand way, Webb, before this, was... we were having the discussion, and he was kind of going over the things that he chose, basically like, worldly things, whereas mine are going to be more, intangible. You'll see.
Yeah, or they'll hear, actually, too. Because we do have, it is an audio-based medium for the most part, so they're probably just seeing a picture right now.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, if they took enough LSD or something, they're actually seeing, our images come to life.
Yeah, they're seeing the dark side of the moon.
Jesus Christ. Hey, you, cut that out, okay?
All right. Being an animal here.
Yeah, I've had enough of your young lust.
Hey, I'm just a little comfortably numb with my beer here.
Yeah, well, earlier, you almost went on camera without a shirt, and I was going to run like hell.
Oh, man. Should I just start barking like a dog?
Oh, all you need to do is shine on, you crazy diamond.
There we go. This
is gonna be the most confusing podcast intro we've ever recorded.
Yes.
But anyway, moving on to things that we like I said, we enjoy these things, but it doesn't seem like a lot of other people seem to, and that could just be where we're not in the right social circle. But sometimes you talk about these things, and other people are like, yeah, I enjoyed that too. I totally get what you're saying. Stefan, why don't you start off the discussion with one of yours?
Oh man, this is gonna be really bad. Okay, so one of the things that I actually appreciate a lot in my life, and I should give some background. When I was growing up, and I'm not like, I'm not planting my own seeds here, but I was pretty popular growing up. I had a lot of friends, and a lot of friends in my 20s. I threw a lot of parties. A lot of people would always be over my place. I never had a moment alone to myself. I didn't think a lot, which was probably good because I was an animal in my 20s. But now I'm 33, and I got to tell you, one of the things I like a lot, and I find that most people don't, they always need someone around, is I like being alone. Very much, most of the time in my life, I just like to be alone. And as I was joking with Webb last night, I feel I'm the most productive in my life, especially when I'm drawing my comic books or, doing art in general, or even writing, which is a big part of my life. I have to be alone for that sort of thing. Of course, I have like music blaring in the background, like the Silent Hill 2 soundtrack or something. It's a great re-energizer for my batteries. What about you, Webb?
Solitude is one of those things that I also can appreciate. I think there's, at least with this specifically, there's a fine line between how much solitude is important between the productivity of it all, but also the fact that humans are by nature social creatures. They say that, it takes a village to raise a child, or, everybody needs somebody sometimes, or other kind of like colloquialisms or idioms or cliches. And it's tough, because there's times where I really do love being around people and sharing things, like, whether it just be like sharing a song that I heard that I really want somebody to listen to, or sharing an idea for a script that I have. It's nice to be able to talk with somebody and get that feedback and provide that. But there's other times where people are just kind of a drain on the things you want to do, especially when your work is important to you. Like when I worked in a hotel, for example, this is kind of a mild example. When you're doing the hotel night shift, your job is to mostly do paperwork. Sure, there's going to be people checking in late, late arrivals and whatnot, but most of the time your job is paperwork. And people are a hindrance to getting that paperwork done, because then you take care of their needs. And if you're a kind of person who values your work, then you know that the sense of getting a job done is important. And when people become an impediment to that, you start to embrace solitude a little bit more. And then there might be times where you just feel like, God, I wish I just didn't feel so alone. And I think it's healthy to have those feelings sometimes, because it reminds you that, yeah, you do need people still. But I agree, for the most part, I would rather spend some time alone, be able to work on projects that I really feel could help contribute to the world, rather than be socializing an awful lot. Or to a different extent, I think I'd rather spend time with a small group of people, or maybe one or two people, than with a large crowd.
Yeah, one or two people would work out a hell of a lot better than a large crowd. You can be more intimate. For me, especially with one person, you can either have a good sense of companionship, whether it's a friend or a girlfriend or boyfriend, or maybe you have both. It could be, something fulfilling in that. But for me, at this age and this point in time, the most fulfilling thing for me is my work. And my work has consumed my life. I think when people go to their actual day jobs and they work those 8 hours and they get off, they think, okay, well, my job is done. And to me, that doesn't make any sense on any visible level. And the reason being is because if you really want the career you want, if you really want the things in life that are actually going to bring you joy and happiness, when you get off your day job, you immediately have to get to work on those things. Your day is never going to be over until you lay down and close your eyes. That's the end of your day. And for me, again, going back to solitude and being alone, the area of my designs is just expansive, and the ideas I have, and they're numerous, and they are so tedious, and they take a lot of energy out of me that, again, I have to be alone for those things. So maybe it's not even that I like being alone. Maybe it's just I have to be alone so much that I've enjoyed liking the process of working on what I hope is my future career. So yeah, that's pretty much my thing. That's my big thing, my big number one. What about you, Webb?
Well, before I mention mine, there's one other question I want to ask about, why you appreciate the solitude and whatnot. obviously you've mentioned before that you want to get into comics. Really, that would be a dream job for you. What is it about that job, though, that is so important to you that that's what you want? Like, what do you want out of that industry?
The biggest thing is because I can draw a little bit, but I still feel like my art isn't dynamic enough. Like, if level 5 is professional artistry, then I'm still on level like 2.5. I haven't fully reached there in my art. In my writing, however, I think I've exceeded a little bit. And when you ask me that question, what it really boils down to is that I just want to share my imagination with people. And I want to see people's reaction and enjoyment. Hopefully not too much hatred, but their enjoyment was seeing the creativity I can bring to the comic book world and just to the world in general. And every time I write something, I think, man, like, if this was a comic book, somebody would love this. You know, people might think I'm being a little pompous about that, but I always again think to people like Kanye West or anyone. You can name anyone. When Kanye West was out there slinging his albums on the streets and being like, I'm going to be the next big thing in the world, like, just watch me, people were like, yeah, sure, Kanye, sure. And I don't like Kanye West, but the point is that, you know, you have to believe in yourself to some capacity. You have to buy into the fact that you're going to succeed because nobody else is going to do it for you, right?
Yeah.
You have to go out there and do it yourself. It's never going to happen. Nobody's going to say, here, little boy, you know, here, little girl, here's your dreams just because you wanted it. You have to go out there and work for it, and you have to believe in yourself, again, because nobody else is going to. So that's where it boils down to me, is that I write. It fulfills me because I'm using the thing that I think is my most valuable commodity, which is my imagination. And my hope is that one day people will get to experience it in the form of a comic book. So sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, I think that's the perfect answer because really, you know, the fact that I'm in or wanting to be in entertainment, whether it be through my writing or through podcasting or hosting my YouTube channel, I want to bring entertainment to others. There was a show called Quincy that aired from, I think, 1976 to 1983, roughly, starring Jack Klugman as a coroner. And there's an episode of it where the episode is called Gentle Into That Good Night, I believe it's called. And it talks about a woman who is dying of terminal cancer. And Quincy is trying to take over for an injured thanatologist or psychiatrist. A thanatologist are people who study the effects of death, like largely the emotional effects of death. And he's trying to help console this woman who's terminal. And Quincy's trying to find out why she's so inconsolable. And he eventually boils it down to the fact that her husband wants her to keep going through treatments to try to cure this thing. But she knows that a treatment is probably not going to be available. There's no sense in waiting around a hospital all this time hoping for something when she knows she's going to die and she'd rather live out her final days at home with him and her kid. So Quincy ultimately is able to express, because she's having a hard time expressing herself with everything going on. So Quincy expresses those feelings based off his experience to the husband. And ultimately she does go home to die in peace. And one of the messages I kind of took from that episode was that there are so many problems in the world that people are facing that you just can't solve them. But you can at least try to do something to make them feel better about the life that they're in. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to go into entertainment, was that with the little power that we have as individuals, I know I can't stop and cure people's problems, but maybe I can get them to laugh a little bit or enjoy life a little bit more for what it is by providing them something that's entertaining. So even though people are, like I said, they can be time-consuming, and that solitude allows you the ability to have that time, ultimately you and I, and probably so many other people that are out in the world, are working towards the same end goal of hoping that they can make other people's lives just a little bit more entertained or interesting.
Yeah, and you know, you have to look at it in this perspective. Anyone that's listening, you know, if you're not going to do it and I'm going to do it, you're just making my life easier, because then I don't have to compete against you, right? And there's millions of people competing to get to the top of whatever their field is. You know, look at it this way: who missed the most baskets ever in the history of basketball, Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest players in basketball. So just do it. Just be a Kobe. Just keep missing until somebody says yes to you, you know. I mean, I know we got off the topic of being alone a little bit, but that's kind of the reason I am, is just because I'm working on my career, you know. So you utilize that time and that solitude, I guess, is what it boils down to.
Yeah.
In my perspective.
Yeah. I agree. It does boil down to that. And then to change things up from such a more heavier tone, one of my things is far more tangible. This is a great subject for debate amongst people, but I still very much enjoy certain seasons of The Simpsons that other people do not. Like, a lot of people say the show, like, crapped out after season 9 or season 10. A lot of people point to season 9 and the Principal and the Pauper episode, the one with the fake Seymour Skinner.
Yeah, I remember that. That's the one that's like, wow, how could you betray us, you shitheads?
Yeah, but the way that I've always interpreted that episode was that it was commentary on how people view each other, to where oftentimes you get this notion in your mind about who somebody was, or like you have all this planted in there, and if you care about somebody strong enough, then you don't accept the reality of who they are, you just accept this image of who you want them to be. So to me, the episode was making commentary about that, or at least that's, again, what I took away from it. Other people vehemently disagree with it, and I understand their perspectives on it, but I don't think that marked an end of The Simpsons. And I will still happily watch things up till about maybe season 14 and still really enjoy it. After that, no, my appreciation for the show starts to fall away tremendously. But if we're talking like classic seasons of The Simpsons, I will argue up until season 12 there's some classic episodes. And then 13 and 14 are still great seasons. After that is where it really starts to drop off for me. But I will adamantly defend seasons, not season 1, because they were still trying to find their feet. And about halfway through season 2, they finally start to click. But from about season 2 to about season 14, I will adamantly defend those seasons of The Simpsons.
Well, here's my cue into it, because I have seen up to, I think, 18, but it's been a while. But if I remember correctly, you know, the time that you see the certain writers leaving and certain people who contributed to be basically becoming what The Simpsons were, you can see why the influence of how the characters saw themselves and how the jokes worked out and the gags and everything, why that humor changed. It's not that it specifically changed, it's just that it was leaning towards more an askew than it was many before, because I can't even imagine what it would be to be in those writers' rooms with, like, you know, Conan O'Brien. There's all these famous people in there, like 14 heads of writing, going down to like 3 by season 9 or something like that. I think it was like 3 or 4 of the regular people.
Might have been, I can't remember myself, but I just remember, you know, you still had some people who were around from the old guard, like Mike Scully was around for a while. He was on The Simpsons for, I think, 97 to 2001 as like the showrunner. And then Al Jean had taken over for a while around the 14th season. So when you have people coming and going, I mean, obviously, is that going to have a huge effect on things? Yes. But like one of their big writers, John Swartzwelder, who wrote some of the best Simpsons episodes ever. This is the man who wrote, to just reflect on a couple of them, he wrote Tale of Two Springfields. He wrote Homer the Great from season 2. He wrote You Only Move Twice, which might be my favorite episode ever. The one with Hank Scorpio.
I don't remember that one off the top of my head.
It's the one where Albert Brooks plays like a Bond villain that Homer ends up working for.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's a great one. He also wrote He wrote Itchy and Scratchy Land, which is a great one. He wrote Homer the Great, the Stonecutter episode. Like, this man wrote a tremendous amount of great Simpsons episodes. And I think his final one, or his final episodes, were in the 14th or 15th season. So after he left, you can definitely tell where there was a nosedive, because losing one of your strongest writers is going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's right. He also wrote Mountain of Madness, the one where they try to do the working or the workplace, not kind of seminar, but teamwork seminar where they all try to climb up to the mountain, and Homer and Mr. Burns get trapped in the cabin under the avalanche.
Isn't it that Mr. Burns already has a scheme to get there first, and
yes.
then his Smithers has to go with somebody else he doesn't want to go with?
Yeah, well, he didn't have any. I didn't think he ended up with any partners, so he had to get up there alone.
That's right.
But my favorite part is when they're in the snow and they accidentally start propelling the house forward with the propane tanks, and Homer's saying, "God bless this rocket house and all those who dwell within the rocket house."
That was actually a really good episode. I will contest to that.
Yeah, so I think those were around season 7 or 8. But there's just so many good episodes that he wrote, and then again after he left, things took a nosedive. But again, up till season 14, I will defend it. Damn it!
I think people should chime in and see if there's any credence to that. Maybe other people feel the same way.
I somehow doubt. People are very strongly opinionated on The Simpsons.
I don't know. I think, after a couple of years, there's been a little bit of leniency, a little bit of perspective. Certainly, the last Simpsons episode I saw was episode 10 of season 25 or something, and I didn't even know what I was watching. There was the Simpson characters, but I didn't know what it was. It made absolutely no sense.
It's one of those things that will obviously people feel completely different about it depending on who you talk to, but at least in my book, up to season 14, you can still watch and enjoy.
Yeah, I will agree to that. There are some still good episodes after season 9.
So then what is your next thing that you'd like to discuss that you enjoy that other people just don't seem to get?
Well, I will say that you seem to get it. I will say that most of my friends, which is 3 people, seem to get it. But anyone else outside of it just absolutely hate me and me being so notorious for sarcasm.
What could you ever possibly be talking about?
Well, literally, we had this discussion yesterday. Your favorite sound card is the Sega Genesis, right?
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love the Sega Genesis sound card. It's amazing how those farting noises can just complete a soundtrack.
If anyone doesn't know what sarcasm is...
That was just it.
Yes. When I usually go into a workplace, one of the first things I do is kind of feel the vibe, let people know that I'm just there. I'm very talkative. You can come to me and talk to me. And then about a weekend, that's when I tune them into the sarcasm, and they just never want to talk to me again. And, I'm not a jerk about it. It's just, people kind of set themselves up for it. People ask for sarcasm. That's why I love it so much, but nobody can just attune to it and give it back. Well, you can, Webb, and you certainly have off the show and on.
Yeah, sarcasm is a second language to me.
Yeah. Well, you're close to New York, so isn't that kind of your guys' thing, or am I being New York racist or something right now? Whatever it is.
It's interesting in that when people think of New York, they think of New York City. But upstate New York and the central New York region, everywhere else, is a radically different world, a different set of values and different style of talking, communication. Particularly in this area where I am, it's like someone just took a big old chunk of the Confederacy and moved it up north and just planted it right down there. Because you got people waving stars and bars, man. You got the Confederate flag out there, and you just want to look at them. It's like, you son of a bitch, you realize we're in the Union, right? So, it's just weird how things are like that in New York. So, for some people, if I try to use sarcasm or any kind of satirical wit, it will go right over their heads.
Wow. So you guys just doubled down then.
Yeah, it's weird how things happen up here. There's some people who, obviously, they can get the joke. They understand sarcasm. They're fantastic people. But then there's others who are just like rednecks that are just very rednecky. I could make a reference to, one of my favorite shows of all time is Frasier. And I could say, oh, yes, well, I was watching a couple of episodes of Frasier last night, and a person would be like, Frasier, isn't that guy who did that Bee movie? Say, no, that's Seinfeld. Ah, yeah, I didn't like that either. Scratch, 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 spit, ting.
I remember going fishing in Iowa, and one of the guys down there, little kids, caught a fish, and he's like, "Oh, Daddy, caught a huge fish." And I was like, "It's more like a flounder." He's like, "Oh, what?" Oh, forget it.
But yeah, sarcasm is one of those things that some people will just not get no matter what you try.
Yeah, and that's granted, not everyone's built for sarcasm. It's certainly a language of people who embrace it or loathe it, and I embrace it. So that's my second pick here. Tangible thing. What about your tangible thing?
My tangible thing that I like that other people do not seem to like is Resident Evil 6.
Oh, boy, I was not. Oh. All right, here we go.
So, see, here's the thing. People, I've heard people argue that this is one of the worst games ever made. And
it is.
It is not. It is not. And I'll tell you why it's not. Because the game, first of all, it actually functions as opposed to other games that do not function properly. It has proper hit detection, it has proper play control, it has very good graphics. Like, the production values of this game are very strong. And as opposed to other games I've played, where those things are not in place, this one actually has those things. Now, as a Resident Evil game, does it hold up well compared to 4 or, 3 or 2 or any of the others? It does not hold up as well, no. But this is not a bad game in my opinion, and I have a lot of fun playing it.
I will say why it is a bad game.
Oh boy.
I'm not going to bash hard or anything. I'm just going to be a little objective here, not subjective.
Okay.
For me, the camera angle, when you come in too close to aim at anything, or you move around in general, it's too close for me. It's not the same as RE4, where it's hanging back, it's like right in your face. And for whatever reason, that just doesn't gel with how I like to play my third-person games.
I believe they patched that out, though.
They didn't when I last platinumed the game, actually.
I remember it being closer when it was first released, and then they patched it to give it more distance.
I think I still didn't like it then, because I platinumed it last year. I don't know, that's just me. But the other thing, too, is that it's a survival horror game, so they don't want to give you a lot of ammo. That makes no sense in a game that's called survival horror, but it's actually an action game. Like, over-the-top Fast and Furious action game. That makes no sense to me.
That is something I can agree with, in that, especially in Chris's campaign, it plays like an action game, but they give you the ammo restraints of a survival horror game, so you either have to be incredibly good with your shots, or you have to know how to mix up like certain close-range combat moves that they give you, along with the gunfire, and that is a very challenging mix.
Yeah, and I will agree that, you do have to kind of mix those combos in, but even then, it still doesn't work for me for whatever reason. Just the over-top action, again, it doesn't feel survival horror. They reused a lot of enemy ideas with the chainsaw mutations, that were carried over from 4 and 5. So there's just too much in there that doesn't feel like a good compatible game for me. And again, you agreed too that it doesn't mix as well, and it's not as good as the other games that came before it. So I'm not going to go on and bash it too hard, but I do not like Resident Evil 6. The only reason I platinumed it is because I told myself I would platinum all the main Resident Evil games, and I have done so far, except for Resident Evil 0. I'm at 75%, but give it time.
Well, see, here's another thing that I would argue. I like the co-op feature of it, and I think that 6 is far more fun when you have a player playing co-op with you, as most games tend to be more fun with co-op. But the thing that I prefer about 6 to 5 is that in 5, Sheva's AI is terrible. And, she'll start using up your items and, messing things up or getting yourself killed. It's like, God damn it, I hate you. But in 6, your AI companion is not those things. They don't use up your ammo. They can't just, get themselves into danger constantly like they could in 5. So you have a more accessible way of playing it without having a partner around, because if you want to play 5 fully all the way through, it's best to have a partner playing with you.
I'll agree to that, although I think on the back burner, you can die easier in 6 while playing with a computer AI than you can in 5. So it's kind of like a give and take.
Well, I think that 6 has some strong campaigns, except for Chris's. Chris is probably the one I enjoyed the least. But I like that they mix up the gameplay with Wesker's son. What was it, Jake? Or Jack?
Yeah, Jake.
Jake. I like that Jake has a focus on martial arts, which lends a completely different play style to him, as opposed to other characters. I still argue it doesn't really have much place in a Resident Evil game, but I still have a lot of fun playing it, and I think that it gets an excessively bad rap for being like this terribly made game, when it's not that it's terrible, it's just that it's somewhat ill-conceived, but the execution of it, in terms of, like I said, game looks great, it plays solidly in terms of it's responsive, and I love how it's one of the few games where it's like you hit a button, you can like go onto your back and just still keep shooting at an enemy and backing up with your feet. Like, it's a very visceral feeling to a lot of that works really well, and I'd love to see that implemented in more games, frankly.
Yeah, we should totally play that game together.
We should, and we can live stream. You asshole with your sarcasm. Well, we should play it, and we should have people watch, and then you can just spend the entire time being like, I hate this fucking game. I hate this fucking game. Like, Stefan, this is great. This is great.
If you really wanted to go for the platinum, I would be a good friend and help you, but
Aww.
I would complain the whole time.
Well, maybe we'll come down to that and see what happens, but for the time being, at least, I will defend Resident Evil 6 as, especially against claims of, like, this is one of the worst games ever. It's like, no, it's not. If you want to play one of the worst games ever, play X-Men Destiny for the 360.
Oh, wow. I remember that one being mediocre. That's been a while.
I mean, that's part of the problem, is that it's so mediocre that it should not have been made. It's just, they completely ruin any kind of potential they had for it, and it just shows that at that point in time, Silicon Knights was just, they were on their way out.
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
But anywho, what is your final selection here for things that you enjoy that other people don't get?
Okay, so a little bit of background. I get anxiety. A lot of people get anxiety.
I am also one of them.
Part of the reason why I got anxiety, and a lot of people do as well, is I would eat wrong constantly, going and eating out. I would drink a lot, and I smoke a lot. I don't do drinking and smoking anymore to the extent that I used to in my 20s. You just can't, kids. As you get older, your body's like, But, those things mix together after years and years of abuse. Your body starts to wear and tear, and it adds to your anxiety. I mean, I've had anxiety to the point where I couldn't even drive a car, and I had to pull over off the side of the road, and I had just eaten Taco Bell, and I threw up the Taco Bell in my Taco Bell bag, and I was only like 2 blocks away from home, and it took me like an hour to get home because I was just this pent-up anxiety. Like, even I was saying to myself, like, what is wrong, body? I'm just driving. It's fine. But my third pick is one of the things that helped my anxiety, and that was something that people don't really like to do, people I know, exercise. And I will tell everyone right now that the moment I decided to go get a gym membership, and I'm not preaching to you, I swear to God, but the moment I started exercising, and I would only go 4 times a week. I'd go for an hour, and I started learning about my body and the different muscles I could work out and the different groups and all that. I actually, 90% of my anxiety went away.
Wow.
Even if I would drink, even if I would smoke, even if I would eat bad, 90%, like, it was almost gone because I was just so more in tune with my body and how to control it and how my mind, like, viewed parts of it, parts that I didn't, like muscles you didn't even know you had, I didn't know I had. And it was gone. And the reason I know for sure that this is a truth is that when COVID hit, and I don't want to date this episode, but when the pandemic hit and I couldn't go to the gym anymore, it started coming back. And I had to slow down everything, and now I cook at home a lot more. Great reason to start learning how to cook different dishes, pandemics. And, honestly, I had to start to learn how to exercise at home. And to me, it's always going to be a big philosophy of my life. One of the 3 things that I always concern myself with in life now are friends and family. And I mean close friends, people you can depend on, like Webb. Close friends and family, my career, and taking care of my body. Those are the most 3 important things in my life that I always have to count on day in and day out. And if my advice is to anyone, if you're suffering from anxiety, give it a chance. Literally, what have you got to lose? You're just making yourself healthier. So, again, I'm not preaching, but that's something that I love to do, that even my roommate, I've taken her to the gym, God, over 10 times, and she still hates it. She's still out of shape, and I don't give her shit for it, but, I try to, I don't know, turn people on as much as I can, because truthfully, I think it does add to your lifestyle and, overall your mind and your everything. It makes you feel better. So that's something I love that I think a lot of people I know hate.
Would you say that when you mentioned how you could feel the anxiety rising up after as the gym closed, would you say that it's all coming back to you now?
Yes.
Because when I hold you like this and you kiss me like that, it was so long ago, but it's all coming back to me now. You're welcome.
I just died in your arms tonight.
It must have been something you said.
Yeah, so that's my advice. I don't know where to go from that.
I guess that train of thought just died in your arms tonight. Must have been something you said or forgot to say. I just died in your arms tonight. Have you ever seen the SNL sketch where there's the wedding band that plays that song, but that's the only part of the song they know? They never bothered to learn the rest of it?
No, I have not seen that one.
It's pretty great. That's the only part of the song that they know.
I still like that band from all the Judd Apatow movies where they sing classics, but then they throw in a couple cuss words.
Yes, that's also good.
I fucking need you more than ever.
It's funny you mention that, though, because that's Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart, which was written and produced by Jim Steinman, who also wrote It's All Coming Back to Me Now, that was originally performed by his band Pandora's Box, but was later covered and won a Grammy for Celine Dion.
If anyone wants a human dictionary for music, Webb is the guy.
I just read I just read liner notes, man.
Yeah, he's really good at this. Even I can't keep up, and I studied music passionately for a couple of years.
It's all about trying to find the liner notes and looking at who wrote this song or who produced this, because a music producer is a really it's a more important thing in music than it is in television or film, because a producer there just fronts up the money and has some creative say, but a music producer can change the entire sound of a record.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. Just look at any of Metallica's documentaries and how much producers would just give them shit till they'd write a good solo.
There you go.
Funny little factoid about Spice Girls' Wannabe song is the zigga zigga ah part in the song. It doesn't make any sense out of context, but the context behind it is that somebody who was recording in the studio next to him, I forget the band or who it was, but they smoked a lot in the bathroom, and they would throw their cigarettes in the toilet and leave them there. So they would call him a zigga, and then they'd see him and go, ah. So then it was zigga ah, and then they put it in a song. It makes no sense whatsoever.
That's interesting, and I don't know why you know this.
Yeah, I read it. I wanted to know what it meant, and then I read an article, and they told the backstory, which is very weird.
Okay, I mean, one of my favorite stories like that is when there were people who were writing that song Neutron Dance for the Pointer Sisters, the one that's used in the opening chase sequence in Beverly Hills Cop.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the line in there, "There's no money falling from the sky, 'cause a man stole my heart and robbed me blind. Someone stole my brand new Chevrolet, and the rent is due and I got no place to stay." And the reason why that line, "Someone stole my brand new Chevrolet," came out was because as the people were writing the song in the studio, one of the writers had purchased a brand new Chevrolet, parked it outside the studio, and as they're writing, guess what happens? Someone starts to steal the car, and they look out there. It's like, someone stole my brand new Chevrolet. And it's like, hey, that's a good line for the song. It so it literally came out like that.
That's a good one. I don't have any good ones like that. One of my friends thought Prince's Little Red Corvette, the chorus was "Pay the Rent, Colette." And I told him that is very racist.
Pay the rent, Colette.
Dun, dun, dun.
Baby, you're much too fast. Dun, dun.
Waiting for the stimulus check. Dun, dun, dun.
You're gonna be evicted out on your ass.
I'm glad we're friends.
So am I. It's conversations like this that make us bond and make other people go, what the hell is wrong with them?
Subscribe.
Moving to more tangible things.
Yes.
My final one that I have here that other people don't seem to get is, and I really like it, is the movie Signs.
Oh.
Now, see what... this movie got a really bad rap after the fact. Like, when it first came out in theaters, it did really well for itself. Like, this was a very successful film. And critics appraised it, too, thinking that it was very effective in terms of its scares, its heart, the way that it presented things for the most part. And this was back in 2002, so the film's 18 years old now. But to put perspective, it had a budget of $72 million. It grossed over $408 million. And it has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes. But if you talk to anybody, they'll tell you, that's a movie where the aliens are, like, weak to water. And here's the thing that people don't seem to get about this that really bothers me. One point of contention that people keep saying is, well, why did they go to a planet that's mostly water? Like, that seems stupid if they're weak to it. And they forget two things. Number one, the aliens put crop circles, according to the movie's lore. They put the crop circles in areas away from water, major sources of water, to mark areas that were safer. So, obviously, they knew there was going to be water in places, but they were trying to find safer targets.
Right, yeah.
Right. And number two, we don't know what their backstory is. We don't know if the resources that what they were looking for, because apparently they were kidnapping people. We don't know if what they were looking for was so important that they had to risk doing this. So it may not be a question of, like, it was stupid for them to go to this planet. It might have been that they had to, depending on what they needed these humans for their resources. We don't know. But if it was something that you needed bad enough, then you would have to form some sort of a plan to work around the dangers of it, and that's exactly what they did in the movie.
Right, and it takes a little bit from War of the Worlds in that way.
Yeah.
But the only difference is that, and this is going into Alien Covenant territory, where the scientists go on a planet that they don't know if there's anything there that can harm them, so they just take off their helmets like dumbasses.
Right.
You know, War of the Worlds and Signs, you know, at least Signs gives some sort of sign to why they should stay away from water, as in War of the Worlds, which it's kind of taking a little bit from. Those aliens apparently didn't believe in germs or know about them. They didn't study the planet enough. You know, these aliens did, so maybe they're getting a one-up on them in that aspect. Being a horror fan, I appreciate the less you see of the alien, the more there's fear to be had. Mm-hmm. And the way that it was shot and what was shown is perfect.
I think about Signs when it comes to, like, the reveal of the alien, when they do the reveal on the videotape, where Joaquin Phoenix is looking at the tape that was, like, photographed in Brazil or something, or Mexico, I can't remember. But, like,
I think it was Brazil.
But he's like, he's looking at it, he's like watching the video, is like telling the children, "Vámonos." Never mind the fact that they don't speak Spanish in, Brazil. They speak Portuguese, but whatever. But when we get that initial reveal of the alien on that videotape, it's creepy because it just feels like news footage. It feels legitimately like news footage that would really creep you out if you saw it. So it was really effective there. The CG alien, once we see it, not as effective. But it's the scenes where it's not seen that are really creepy, like when Mel Gibson's character tries to look under the pantry door with the knife to see if something is really in there and what it is. Because we don't see what he's looking at, we just see the hand come out.
things like that are really effective and creepy. So the movie's got a lot of great, cheap, not cheap scares, but legitimately building atmosphere that I really enjoy. And the other part that really bothers me about people's interpretation of this film is that they miss the fact that the movie is not actually about an alien invasion. It's about a man trying to regain his faith in the form of Gibson's character being a priest who's effectively lost faith in God. And then people will say, oh, so you mean that his wife died all those years ago just for this to happen? It's like, no, that's not the purpose of why his wife died. It's, again, misinterpreted. There's things in life that if you believe in God, or if you believe in Christianity or certain other religions, they say that God exists in faith. And in my interpretation of all this is that the big lesson, I guess, that religions try to teach is that you need to have faith. And I think that lesson of faith extends to other things too, like not just from a religious side of things, but like you need to have faith in yourself to be able to get through hard times. You need to have faith in your family and your friends, that they're going to be there for you if you need. Like, faith is a big thing that gets us through life. Sometimes it's very hard to have faith in people. Sometimes it's hard to have faith in a higher power if one exists. If there is a God and he's trying to show us things, then for it to exist in faith, which is again the point, then things can't be so believable. That it's like, oh, well, obviously this is from God, because if it was a clear-cut sign, we'd have proof and it would destroy the point of faith, if I'm making any sense so far.
No, yeah, totally.
So, like, when Gibson's wife in the film dies, she keeps saying, tell Meryl to swing away, tell Meryl to swing away, which was just horrible for him because it meant nothing to him. Like, those are the last words his wife says to him, are just like these dying visions of her brother playing baseball, which unfortunately, when a person's dying, sometimes their brain just fires rapid things in their mind. And so it stung him that the last words that his wife would say were just so completely inconsequential. But he found a purpose for those words. Now, is it just that, those words were just random? Or did they actually have some meaning to them that stuck in his mind for a reason, because he could use those words later in life to just remind him of, like, what his brother was good at? You don't know, because that's the point. Like his son having asthma that protected his airways from getting blocked up from the alien gas that they use, the knockout gas or the poison gas. Coincidence? Maybe. Or was it just things lining up just right that it so happens that the asthma attack saved his life? These are all things that in life you could chalk up to coincidence, or if there is a higher power, maybe it's a sign that sometimes the things that we don't necessarily expect, or we don't like the way that they occur, maybe there is some other purpose behind them that we just haven't found yet. It is, like, for example, when my father passed away, he spent 3 years dying from lung cancer. My youngest brother had no sense of responsibility at the time. He was just more concerned with drinking and drugs and nothing else. He had spent time in, like, different homes, or not different homes, but different facilities to try to turn him into a better person. Ultimately, all those things failed. But when Dad was dying and needed somebody there to take care of him, I was already out of the house. My other brothers had moved out, for the most part, and left my youngest brother there to help him. And he stuck with it. He helped Dad out as much as he could. He gained a sense of responsibility, and he's become a much better and changed individual who I am proud to call my brother. So, is it just, coincidence that he rose to the task, like somehow stepped up? Or was this like Dad's final parting gift to the world, if you will, that in his passing he taught my youngest brother a sense of responsibility, and it changed his life? Is it spiritual? Is it secular? It's up to interpretation. And you'll have people who say, yeah, maybe that is like a sign of God. Maybe that's like, your father died because of lung cancer that was unavoidable, but maybe the part of the miracle of it is that he passed on something to your brother. Maybe. Or maybe it's just fucking coincidence. It could be either one of those things, but it's all up to interpretation. And the movie Signs, to me, is very much about that, and people seem to have missed that message in it. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, it gives the film a kind of resonance that goes underappreciated.
Yeah, and I think given the history of Mel Gibson, and the, what was that movie called? The something of Christ?
Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ, which I did watch, and every time I watch, I cry. Because, it really is a horrible thing that even if Jesus isn't real, just that happening to anybody, it's just a disgusting thing. It's like the Jews in Auschwitz, it's like police brutality against anyone. It's just disgusting. But, going back to Signs, it kind of makes sense why he chose that movie, because maybe he was in his own contention, with like faith. Maybe he was just having his own.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that at all. That's a good point.
Yeah, and even just maybe he just knew that people would get what you got out of it, that you just got to keep the faith. There might be those underlying messages, and again, we'll never know. We'll never know if God is real or not, which is why I'm an agnostic. But as the movie points out, and as it rolls along, it is a very compacted movie in the fact that the humor in it makes sense. The ideas behind it make sense. The actors do an amazing job of just... I like, sometimes I'm like, how many takes did that take? Because just like the arm in the basement coming around her and the way the flashlights move, all that stuff, I'm sure it's choreographed, but it just looks so good. The horror segments stick out to me. And overall, again, it has a one-up on War of the Worlds, so I love that movie too, Webb. And I'm there with you. I don't think a lot of people would be, though. But overall, it's a well-put-together movie, and sure enough, it's not M. Night Shyamalan's worst movie.
No, and I also really... I think this one goes underappreciated, too, but not... I think just because people didn't get it coming off of Sixth Sense, but Unbreakable... I love that film.
Yeah, that's oh man, he nailed it with that one.
Like I'll never forget the first time I watched that movie, wondering like what the hell it was supposed to be, until partway through, it's like, holy shit, it's a superhero movie.
Yeah, they call me Mr. Glass.
That's a great line.
Oh man, so good.
I think they completely dropped the ball with the third film though, with Glass though.
Oh yeah, what really was too. This is so much a tangent, but. Making Samuel L. Jackson not talk? What were you thinking?
Yeah, I know.
But I guess it makes sense in the context of the story. I wasn't on board with that. I need to hear my Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, Unbreakable's great. I love that that Split was basically a super villain origin film, which we very rarely see those.
Mm-hmm.
But they just dropped the ball with Glass. Shyamalan he's able to get some great performances out of his actors, because Bruce Willis was great in Unbreakable. He was fantastic in The Sixth Sense. And this is the other thing that this is so random of a tangent, but I need to say it. Like, whenever you look at lists about actors who are difficult to deal with, they always put Bruce Willis on there. But the only thing they ever cite is his problems with Cop-Out.
The Kevin Smith story, yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing they ever give any kind of an example of, like, he's difficult to work with because of this movie. But the guy's been in dozens upon dozens of films, and I have not heard anybody else complain about him being hard to work with.
Can't recall specifically anyone saying that, but yeah, I think Kevin Smith is the only one. Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's just because their personalities just butted heads, which sometimes happens. I know he and Sybil Shepherd had terrible problems on Moonlighting because of egos at the time, and Bruce getting very popular very fast. But I haven't heard Shyamalan come out and say he was horrible to work with, because he cast him in several different films. I never heard Quentin Tarantino come out and say he was a prick on Pulp Fiction, horrible person to work with. So I can't imagine that he's really that bad of an actor to work with. I just think that sometimes he gets pigeonholed into these action roles, and he's probably sometimes a little frustrated with that, but that's probably the worst.
Yeah, well, that's weird, too, also in the fact that a lot of people... And I think he was included in this, didn't see him as the action star in Die Hard. There's a big story behind that.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Redford, I think it was, like all these actors, Frank Sinatra, just people they were like, let's gamble on these old guys and not Bruce Willis. So, I still like Death Becomes Her.
Oh, that's a great movie.
It's an amazing movie. We're going to have to review that sometime.
Oh, my God, we have to. That film does not get enough credit. That's a great film.
Yeah, and he does as well, so... Big tangent there, but I will agree with you on Signs that it's a well-made movie. Again, I haven't seen it since it came out on DVD. 2008, you said?
No, this came out in 2002.
2002, so I was like 15 or 16 or something. But yeah, it's been a long time. It's been like half my life ago.
Are you saying it's been a long time, been a long time, been a long, lonely time?
Pay the rent, Carla.
It's like I read somewhere, you know the song Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said that they felt that the chorus, or like the pre-chorus, so him singing You Lied to Me, was him singing Yolanda May, about a woman named Yolanda May.
Oh, my gosh.
Yolanda May. Every time I said I'd die for you.
Misheard lyrics. We should do our own misheard lyrics episode. I wonder if you have any.
Oh, I definitely have one. I've got one of my favorites is there's the Police song Synchronicity 2.
You know I don't like the Police, so
There's a line near the end, I think it's in the last verse, where he's driving home and then he says, only the rush of hands to face. But whenever I hear it, I always hear, only the Russian ham souffle.
Russian hand souffle.
Or possibly my other favorite. Do you know the Kate Bush song Wuthering Heights?
I do not.
It's a beautiful song, but there's a part where she sings, Heathcliff, it's me, Kathy, I've come home. And I believe the song is actually about a urinary tract infection, because I hear her singing, Heathcliff, it's me, I can't pee.
Ah, I've heard a girl say that once.
I've also noted at least 2 or 3 Pokemon references in older songs.
That's very true. Someone actually wrote an article about that somewhere. I'll have to find that.
Like, for instance, in Benny and the Jets by Elton John.
Yeah.
He sings, oh, Benny, she's a really keen, but it sounds like, oh, Benny, she's a Raticate.
Raticate.
Also, John Cougar Mellencamp, or just John Mellencamp, has 2 of these. And there's a little-known song, it was kind of a mild hit, it's called Key West Intermezzo, I Saw You First. And he sings, the line is, this loud Cuban band is crucifying John Lennon. But the way he sings it, he says, this loud Cubone band is crucifying John Lennon. It's like, oh, a Cubone reference.
I actually don't get that one.
Okay, well, then the other one is in Authority song. You know, I fight authority, authority always win. One of the opening lines when he's singing, like they'll kick at you and stare right in your face. But the way he sings it, it sounds like, they're like Pikachu there staring in your face.
Go Pikachu. Pika.
John Mellencamp with a Pikachu reference.
I remember that John Mellencamp song. It's called Electric.
That one's called. That's not. No, Stefan, that's not the name.
Electric Fire.
These things are not accurate that you're saying.
And then in parentheses it said till the break of dawn.
No. Oh, what am I going to do with you? Anyway.
Yeah, we've gone way tangenty today.
But hopefully everyone enjoyed the tangents. I thought they were fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
But we do want to hear some things that... Well, first of all, your thoughts on things that we mentioned. Like if there's things that we enjoy that you think, like, hey, I'm glad you guys enjoy that too. Or if you just think that we're like full of shit. It's like, how can you possibly enjoy that? You're idiots. Fair criticism. Fair criticism.
Yeah, so everyone just basically give web shit for Resident Evil 6 and then validate exercise as a form of curing anxiety for me. That's all you have to do, really.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Mention how great Resident Evil 6 is and validate that, and you're perfectly fine.
Pay the rent. Waiting for that stimulus check.
Pay the rent, Paulette.
I'm going to just be singing that all night. Oh, thank you, Dr. Proctor, for giving that to me.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Yeah, you can contact me at Critical Android on Twitter or thecriticalandroid@gmail.com. Stefan, how can they contact you?
I am Cyberpunk Holiday on Instagram, so come check out the art and say hi.
You gonna have a link there posted to your favorite Prince song now?
Yes.
All right. Well, on that note, God, this is one crypt. Well, we'll keep this crypt open for others to dive into and see what comes out. But for the time being, at least, thank you all for taking part of this and being a part of our little, whatever you want to call this, little corner of the crypt, I guess, where bad ideas and good ideas come out. So for myself, the Critical Android, and for Stefan JD, we wish you very well, good travelers. For now, the crypt is closed. Pay the rent, Colette. I hate you so much.